The Doom Patrol JLA Milk Wars crossover is about to come to its conclusion. Is it still as tasty as it once was, or has it kinda gone sour? What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is iRate Reviews, the show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something you should go back to the comic book shop for or not. Make sure you subscribe to get more of these every single week. The book that I want to talk about is the climax of the JLA Doom Patrol crossover, Doom Patrol JLA #1, where we still get Steve Orlando and Gerard Way writing this entire conclusion, with art by Nick Darrington and a variety of other artists. What this really does is it sets up the future of Young Animal and gets us a little bit more interaction between some of our favorite superheroes and some of our cartoon crazies that are over there on the Young Animal side. So let's jump into this one feet first and see what we get in this final arc of this crossover. So here we are at part 5, the finale of the Doom Patrol JLA crossover event, and the absurdity of this, the absolute insanity, isn't lost on me. And I mean, when we jump into this issue, we see more of it. You know, we started off with the passion of Rita Farr, and now she's being kind of like sucked of her energy from these alien beings that we were introduced to. You've got the cybernetic eye, it's blasting off into other spaces. We've got Cave Carson being tortured by Milkman Man. So this Superman paragon that was created by Retconn, and he's piercing his ear. He's like slicing it open with his heat vision. He's so limited in terms of what his scope is, what he thinks is the correct usage. He is nothing. He was born an entity that had no shape, no form, and he feels like he is the only person here. But he's still very sure that Cave Carson is just like, hey, even though you killed the Dreamers, that's just nothing. We're still in business. However, the cybernetic eye is blasting towards him, and immediately it unleashes everyone that it's been keeping inside of its kind of interdimensional space. So we see Flex Mentallo, Black Canary, we got Lobo, we got Casey Brink, we got Wonder Woman, we got Batman, we got the Atom, we got there's just so much that's unleashed here. Danny's just busting out of there. So you got this ambulance, there's all kinds of stuff that's being unleashed by this cybernetic eye, and it's just a great like 2-page spread that just really captures everything about this. I love the art for where this arc is going. What it comes down to is that Batman, in his simplest terms, he's really to the point. He frees Cave Carson. Flex Mentallo and Killer Frost are taking on Milkman Man. You've got Vixen getting in a couple shots, and Milkman Man is super pissed off simply because he's just like, I am not a victim in this. He is the product of what they created of him. He goes to, whoop on Cave Carson, but Wonder Woman stops him, so they start fighting back and forth. The mutated cows that we saw earlier that captured Rita Farr from the beginning, they come in, and then we get back to what happens in the Retconn offices upstairs. We've got the representative from Retconn. He's talking to Lord Manga Khan, who's trying to get in touch with everything that's going on, but what we see is that he's watching the passion of Rita Farr on television. So it's really weird because they start talking about like these spikes that are being hammered into her hands and her feet, and it's all about the line of DC superstars, and it's just so twisted and strange. You've got the battle that's still raging on through the Retconn offices. It comes down to the fact that Casey Brink is confronting Milkman Man, her son, born from her and Terry Nunn, and he is just like, Marty Magibel, my father, I will not disappoint him. It's just like, he's not your father, I'm your father. Of course, there's a situation that's going to be happening here because we go back up to Lord Manga Khan. He's dealing with the Retconn offices, and they're negotiating, and negotiation is one of his favorite parts of the process. So as we bounce back and forth between what's happening with Rita in this really weird interstellar dimension, and we go to what's happening with Cave Carson and the rest of the things that are really happening in this, there's just so much stuff, but it comes down to the fact that Retconn makes them an offer, makes Lord Manga Khan an offer that if they can help clean up Prime Earth, they can have it, no additional charge. Of course, Lord Manga Khan is working for Mr. Nebula, the cosmic decorator, I guess, or the universal decorator. He's not some sort of fabulous fumigator, but he denies it. Lord Manga Khan bamps out, and next we see the continued calamity that is raging its way through the Retconn offices. Amongst all this violence in the fray and the noise of this, we get a really human and personal moment between Casey Brink and between Milkman Man as they're having this kind of confrontation. Not necessarily physically, but what they're doing is they're having a real heart-to-heart kind of moment where Milkman Man seems to be coming to terms with his existence and the existence of Casey Brink. Whereas the Retconn official, man, he is just ready to do the ultimate failsafe. He's ready to wipe everything from existence. He is about to take this universe down, just basically clean slate the whole thing. Of course, Rita Farr, who was Elasti-Girl, has the ability to stretch and she can contract. So what she does is she takes her essence and she stretches her way out of the cosmos, becoming one with everything, expanding to the greatest lengths so that way she is exposed to nothing but the entirety of the universe itself. And she finds that the universe she's perceiving is actually a map sitting on a table that's getting a coffee stain, which is super weird. And because of the coffee stain and everything that's going on with the last final failsafe, the universe itself is starting to bleed and it's starting to burn. It's kind of like when a film falls apart when you're watching it in the theater and you get these kind of, these burns that are going on. So the universe is falling apart itself and everybody is being expunged at this point in time. However, Batman has an idea. Muscle mystery is something that can save the day. With Flex Mentallo and the power of muscle mystery, he can use the possibility of inflation intensity, using electromagnetism from his endorphins to go beyond muscle mystery to save everything and hit the potential restart button. So we don't necessarily know what's going on, but the fact that everybody is kind of going along with this idea, they're going along with this possible plan, not just Flex Mentallo will have to blow up, but everybody's going to have to blow up, combining their powers, combining the powers of muscle mystery and inflammation intensity or whatever it's going on. They reset. They flash everything out of existence, and we dip into some familiar art from Mr. Nick Darrington. And it's a relatively blank page, but we get to see the emergence from the milk of this creature, this person, and they're kind of living beyond the edges of panels. They can see the entirety of the universe. We get some exposure into what is possibly going to be the next generation of young animal as it slowly makes its way down. Mother Panic is in a city that doesn't necessarily know who it is anymore. Its presence, its shadow, it doesn't feel like it's there. Cave Carson is inside an interstellar kind of situation. He is exploring beyond space rather than being underground. Shade is clearly changed, and somebody slips her way in. As the doors kind of shutting, this one character that is going to be making its way into a new young animal imprint just makes her way into the universe. And as Elasti-Girl makes her way out of this milky kind of white backdrop of what used to be existence, she slowly makes her way into the rest of the space amongst the rest of the heroes, shaking the milk off and becoming a portion of everything. So when you hear this bang, all of a sudden everybody becomes aware of these situations, of Rita, of everyone that is now here. And they're so thankful and so glad that they're still standing. And the real big boom at the end of this is Cliff. Cliff is no longer Robo-Man. Cliff is just a general dude. It's just one of those things where he was just some sort of fan fiction that was cast into this story that wasn't necessarily the original Robo-Man. However, everybody still loves him just the same. Casey Brink has to deal with the conflict of Milkman Man, the idea of losing a child, the son that they never really had the opportunity to have, and the use of that son. But Wonder Woman is the pinnacle of support that she really needs to be in this case. And the crazy thing is that as we end Doom Patrol JLA, we find that there's not necessarily a lot of lessons to be learned in this one. There's a lot of different overtones that people put into different pieces of this particular book. But as far as entertainment value, it was clearly a winner for me, just because there was so much that you had going on in this entire story that wasn't necessarily easy to understand, it wasn't necessarily easy to perceive, and overall the exposition, the explanation, everything about it was really weird to begin with. But if you're a fan of the weird, if you're a fan of the fun, if you're a fan of the crazy, this is a great place to get into it, especially if you want to see a collection, a collaboration of all your favorite artists and all your favorite characters, or at least most of your favorite characters, or a representation of them. So I would say that JLA Doom Patrol, the crossover itself, is still a very fun endeavor in order if you want to get into it, but it might not necessarily be for everybody. I might have to do some sort of retrospective on this one just to kind of get a little bit better idea of exactly what's going on and kind of wrap things up. Overall, I would still recommend it for you guys, but I want to know what you guys thought of the JLA Doom Patrol crossover. Is it something you would consider a really fun read, something that's really entertaining? Would you consider it a little bit haphazard and, a little bit too insane, a little bit too out there for it to be considered a particularly good story? So I want to know what you guys think, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.